All right, guys, fans cannot wait for the return of the NMF, and neither can we. Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson steps into the cage for his 20th UFC fight at UFC 296, man. 20th UFC fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, welcome back to Submission Radio, man. Unbelievable achievement coming up.
Thank you, my friend. You just said 20th. I was like, I don't keep up with the count. I was like, dang, it's been 20?
Well, you haven't thought about it? You haven't looked at it? You didn't realize?
No, I had no idea I had 20 fights in the UFC. I mean, I'm considered a veteran, but I know there's obviously there's a lot of guys who are still fighting. I mean, such as, Clay Guida, who just fought last night, who's got a ton of fights too, but I didn't realize it was 20.
It's insane because when you think of like the 20, you think of guys like, the Cerrones, the Jim Millers, like, the Clay Guidas. When you debuted back in UFC 143, 2012, did you ever think you'd be going into your 20th fight one day?
No, not in the 20th. No, man. I mean, I knew that I was going to be able to do. I wanted to do this for a while, and obviously, I had at an early age, especially in my UFC career, that if I didn't take too much damage, I'll do this as long as my body will let me. So, but here I am, man. 2 weeks away from my next fight, 20th fight. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. I gotta ask, just to follow up from Casper, in 2012, you were 29, right? When you when a sprightly Stephen Thompson joined the UFC, even though you look exactly the same as you did back then today, I gotta ask, so what was your official plan when you were going in there? Because me and Casper in our 20s, we're thinking, big cars, fast women, fun holidays,
bitches, hoes, and money. I imagine you had the same exact plan, right, Stephen?
Man, no. Well, I mean, when I first got the call to fight for the UFC, I was I was getting ready to turn it down.
Really?
I felt like I wasn't ready. I started my MMA career fairly late in my kickboxing, combat career. I was, like I said, I was 29. And at the time I was so used to just doing stand up, and the ground game was fairly, I knew I wasn't as good as the guys that were in the UFC. So I felt like I wasn't ready. But my dad was like, you need to take advantage of this opportunity because they may never call again. So I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go for it. And to be honest with you, after that first fight, I've just been along for the ride and still growing every day. But I was getting ready to turn it down. I was going to say no. I felt like I wasn't ready.
Why did they call you sort of if you weren't necessarily thinking about pursuing an MMA career? Because I feel like I first heard about you when you were, I think you were Weidman's training partner. You were helping him prepare for someone, or maybe it was even someone before that. So what was the deal? The UFC just wasn't even on your radar at all.
Well, it was. That was the ultimate goal, but I didn't realize they were going to actually call me so soon. I was 5-0 pro MMA, and I was training with George St. Pierre at the time.
Right.
So I would go up, and this was before I was even doing MMA. I would go up to Montreal and train in a TriStar to help GSP get ready for his up and coming fights, especially against John Fitch, Thiago Alves, BJ Penn. There's a bunch of guys that I would help him get ready for. And he was the reason I actually wanted to make the switch from kickboxing to MMA, because I was training with all these champions through GSP. GSP, Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, Cerrone, and just kind of snowballed from there. Leo Machida, even Anderson Silva. I got to train with these guys. So I'm like, man, I'm training with these champions. Why not switch from kickboxing to MMA? I just didn't know it was going to snowball as fast as it did.
Hey, dude, just speaking of GSP, how good was he back in those days? Because I know you shared the octagon, with Woodley. You've been in there with Hendricks, former champions. You've been in there actually with the best of the best. So you can really compare him to all those guys. How good was he?
He was awesome. I mean, definitely feats and bounds for that time. He was a complete MMA fighter. When in those days you had specialists, you had the jiu-jitsu specialist, the wrestling specialist, and Matt Hughes and the BJJ guy, and like BJ Penn and the strikers, Thiago Alves. You had a lot of specialists, and he was just great everywhere. I feel like if he was in his prime, he would still be champ to this day.
I don't know if you saw, Chael Sonnen, he likes to talk about a number of things, and you don't know what's 100% and what's not, but he's talking about this GSP versus Nick Diaz 2 fight for UFC 300. Just curious, what would your thoughts be if that happened? Would you want to see it? Would you not want to see it? Do you think it should happen? What do you think?
I think there should be a better option for GSP. I mean, GSP he's a lifelong martial artist. I mean, he's still training hard every day. And against somebody like Nick Diaz, I don't think that would be very interesting. I think it would be very smart for GSP to take it, and the fact that I just know that he would just dominate Nick Diaz. I mean, everybody saw Nick Diaz's last fight, wasn't very impressive, and just the way he was conversating after the fight, I had no clue what this dude was talking about. Like, I don't know. I don't even know if he's all there. I don't know if he's just taking too much punishment over the years, or maybe it was just in the moment he just didn't speak very well. But I just didn't feel like he should have been out there. And to face somebody like GSP, I wouldn't want to fight GSP to this day. Like if they asked me tomorrow to fight him, I would say no. No, this is a terrible. Yeah, it would not be good for me. But I think it would be smart for GSP, but I don't think it would be very exciting.
I think
I think GSP would just dominate him.
Well, I think GSP and Khabib was like always the fight to make, or like one of the always fights to make. So if he came back and just rematched Nick, wouldn't be super exciting. I was going to ask you that obviously the division is like super, super different compared to like, the days of old. Like you've got all these young up and comers, like the Shavkats, the Ian Garrys. There's like all these different prospects, and it's like Hamzat, that even though he's now sort of at middleweight. But looking at this Shavkat fight, right? You've never shied away from anyone, but this wasn't a guy that was necessarily on your radar not that long ago. So I wonder, what is it that made you want to take this fight now? Why is now the right time?
Well, obviously, when they had asked to fight him before, this was like a few years ago, I said no, just because I didn't know who he was. He was fairly new on the scene. I was still in the top 5. And there were guys that were more deserving of that shot than him at the time. But since then, since I first heard his name, I kept watch. I kept my eye on the guy, and the dude's a beast, man. I mean, to see what he did to Neil Magny and to Geoff Neal, who I faced before, which was a great fight, to be honest with you. Him finishing with a good old bulldog choke at the very end. The dude's a beast, man. He's undefeated. He's got 100% finish rate. And it just made sense at the time. I wanted somebody ranked higher than me because I've been fighting guys who are ranked behind me for the past few years. Understandable, but I was like, I got a small window to kind of do what I want to do with the fight game. And I want to fight somebody in the top 5. And they said Shavkat. Because for a second there, it was Kamaru Usman, because remember, he called me out.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I mean, I wasn't able to fight in July because of that whole debacle with my opponent not making weight. And then you had Usman call me. I'm like, dude, what better fight than to fight the number 1 contender? I beat this guy, then I get another title shot. But obviously, the UFC had different plans for Usman.
Did they ever offer that at all? Was there ever any talks, or it never materialized between you guys kind of calling each other out?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Did the UFC ever try and make that fight? Was there anything happening with that fight, or was it just really you guys? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was just us kind of talking, kind of back and forth on social media, But since I didn't get him, then the best guy, obviously, who everybody's saying is the best in the division, could possibly be the welterweight champion in the near future, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm like, let's do it, man. I have faced undefeated guys before. And like I said, I'm in the game for the honor and the glory, and to be able to say that I fought the best guys in the world. So this is it, man. I mean, this is the guy right now. This is the guy everybody's talking about. Undefeated. He's scary. He's good everywhere. He's not afraid to strike. And that's why I like this fight, too, because I think it's going to be a fight for the fans as well. I think they'll enjoy it. He's the type of guy that will try to finish you. I don't think he's the type of guy that would just take you down and hold you down just to win the fight, right? Nobody wants to see that. So I'm looking at an exciting fight with Shavkat.
I'm pretty sure he's never gone to a decision ever. So it's one of those ones that people look at it like, man, when Shavkat's fighting, like someone's going down. Do you kind of like that fact that he's almost like a bit of a boogeyman in the division at the moment, and you can go in there and kind of like almost potentially derail that hype train?
Yes, I mean, and that's the plan. If I go out there and show the UFC and the fans that what I'm capable of, even at the age of 40, that that we're definitely looking for a title shot, or at least a number one contender shot. Obviously, there's the other welterweights on the card, so up and coming guys, and Ian Garry, and I think he's facing off against one of his teammates, Vicente Luque. I think they train at Killcliff or did.
Yeah.
And then you have the championship fight. I mean, Colby Covington, which is getting his third title shot, which is crazy, against Leon Edwards. So definitely going to be looking at all those very closely while I'm there.
Perfect card to be fighting on. It's very much like a welterweight showcase. But I wanted to ask you sort of like, so was it the Geoff Neal the Geoff Neal fight and his win over Geoff Neal that kind of sealed the deal for you? Is that the one that kind of made you want, okay, right, this is an interesting guy for me? And also, what did you think of that fight? Just because like you mentioned, you fought Geoff Neal, you beat him, and I wonder how you sort of compare those two fights and what you kind of learned about Shavkat there.
Yeah, man. It was a great fight between both, but it did at the time, Shavkat was just mowing through everybody. And this was kind of the first guy in Geoff Neal that had kind of pieced him up a little bit, hit him with some good shots, kind of showed some openings there in Shavkat's defense. Couldn't take him down, couldn't take Geoff Neal down, but Geoff Neal was holding his own there for a little bit. Now, I do feel like Geoff Neal wasn't in the best of shape. I think after the fight, he had mentioned he still had some problems, some health issues going on. But it was a great fight. It showed the grit in both guys, which is what I love, man. I love guys out there that show grit, when they get hit, punch, kick, punch, and they still keep on going. So, and I mean, he rocked. I feel like he rocked Shavkat, especially in boxing range and some of the exchanges. So it shows some openings a little bit. Now, do I feel like, Shavkat's going to stand there and bang with me? I don't think so. I think eventually he's going to shoot. He's going to shoot in and try to get the fight to the ground, obviously. But he's still a type of guy to try to finish. And I would rather go out on my shield than just somebody hold me there. You know what I mean? One of the worst feelings that I have is after fight, walking through the airport and not having a bump or a bruise or an ache to show the battle that I had the night before. And when I fought those two fights, with Bilal and Gilbert, I was literally walking to the airport. The best feeling is walking through the airport the next day, can barely move, man. People are looking at you like, what did this guy go through last night? I'm
sick
like,
in the head, Steven.
I think so. I think there's something wrong with me, man. But it's like, it's that feeling that I just went through a battle, a war, and, and survived, or, even win or a loss, I'm still here. You have those remnants of the battle, of the night before. And I'm going to get that. And that's what I'm most looking forward to be honest with you, fight with Shavkat.
Well, people don't realize this because you're such a nice person on and off, the UFC broadcasts behind the scenes. But like, you're one of the toughest guys we know. I remember I was watching that. Me and Cass were watching the Vicente fight live, and like you guys were laying into each other. If you were watching it live in cage side, you saw the damage, and you could just see how much you're in your element basically when the war is happening. And you fought a lot of these guys that people have forgotten, have come and gone, that at the time were the very, very best. And you just keep going for it. I mean, it's so commendable, man. With Shavkat, you mentioned how you think he'll take it to the ground. I wonder, what do you think of his striking in general? You're one of the best strikers in the UFC. How do you sort of break down what he brings on the feet?
I think he's very good. I mean, he's very good at what he does. He predominantly keeps his left side forward, which is good. He'll throw spin kicks. He likes to eat space, but not crazy. Not like Vicente Luque coming running at you. I think he's going to be trying to eat my space, walking me down, but very cautiously. He's going to look for his openings. He's not a volume fighter. He's not a guy kind of like Nate Diaz that kind of goes out there and just beats you with volume. He picks his shots, which tells you that he's very calculative out there. He's waiting for you to swing and miss, and he's going to try to capitalize. He uses his striking and his clinch work, which predominantly where he takes his opponent down and gets into the cage from the clinch very well. So what makes him good isn't the fact that he's got good striking or good grappling, but he's able to put it together very well, so to speak, right? So kind of brings me back to the Rory McDonald vibes when I fought him. You know, he was great everywhere. So that which brings a urgency because we only got 3 rounds to get this done in, right? I love the 5-minute round fights. So when you start to lessen the rounds, the urgency is there to go out there and win every round, right? So when you got 5-round fights, it's like, oh, I can coast these 2 rounds or give it all these 2 or 3 rounds and then coast the last round. There's none of that when it comes to a 3-round fight. It's balls to the wall every step of the way. And in some factors, the 3-round fights are the hardest. So I know we got a 3-round fight. I wish it was a 5-round fight. So I think he's going to bring it the every step of the way, every minute, every second. I'm going to have to be in tune with what he's doing, and vice versa. He's going to be in tune with what I'm doing.
It's good for
I think that makes for an exciting fight.
Yeah, I was going to say what I'm getting from you is that because it's 3 rounds, it's going to be higher pace, high action, which is going to be exciting for all the fans. Speaking of exciting, our good friends at Manscaped have some exciting news. Christmas has come early, guys. Merry Ballsmas with the Lawnmower 5.0, baby. The new edition from Manscaped, sporting 2 next-generation blade heads, a standard trimmer blade for taking a little bit off the top, and then a new foil blade to go ultra, ultra smooth wherever your heart desires. And the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has you covered, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Body Trimmer and the Weed Whacker 2.0 Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer, featuring the proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to protect all your delicate presents. Plus, they're both waterproof, so there's no issue clearing the snow out of the driveway, if you know what I mean. And once you've groomed your candy cane, it's time to make sure that you don't smell like a reindeer with the Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant. Once you slap those on your sack, you're basically good to go and hit the town. You've also got 2 free gifts in the Performance Package 5.0 with the Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. You are all sorted. Perfect gift for you or anybody else this Christmas. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And to get that big discount, use the code word submission, 20% off and free shipping today. Surprise your partner, your friends, everybody around you with a perfect Christmas gift at Manscaped.
Oh, and just super quickly, calling all cricket fans, guys. Obviously, this one is for you if you're a fan of cricket or even if you like prizes, because the summer of cricket is coming and the Big Bash League is starting this week. The Bundy Big Cricket Quiz has launched on the Fanzo app. Fanzo, the best in the world at finding you venues, local venues to watch sporting events for free. And Bundy's Big Cricket Quiz is here, giving you the chance to win a $50 digital Visa card to spend at your local throughout the summer of cricket. If you consider yourself a cricket connoisseur, here is your opportunity to put your knowledge to the test each week and win thanks to Bundy. To play, it is dead simple. Just download the Fanzo app in the link in our bio down below, select the Bundy Cricket Quiz, and you can play every single week. How good is that, Dennis?
Dude, it's the best. It's a free service. Everyone's been using it. Everyone's been loving it. It finds you the best venues, and now you can win a gift voucher on top of it. I know a lot of our listeners are cricket experts. Win that extra cash going into Christmas. And click the link in the description below and get into it now.
50 G's, baby. Stephen, just going back to you, a little bit of a side note. I don't know if you saw this, but Joaquin Buckley was speaking to Middle Easy, and he had a little bit of doubts that you would be showing up to UFC 96. I'm wondering if you caught that.
No, I didn't. I wonder why that is.
Well, I was going
to get injured or something.
I was going to ask you for anyone doubting whether you show up. We know how busy you are because we've been trying to get you on for a while. You're definitely going to be there at UFC 296, right?
I'm there at UFC 296. I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm there. I mean, the only time that I actually had to back out of a fight was, you remember, what's his name? I was going to fight him in Denver, Brandon Thatch.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Brandon Thatch? I was supposed to fight him in Denver, Colorado. And I think Chris Weidman was supposed to be the main event on that card. Well, I'm in New York training with him. We're at Hofstra University, his old stomping grounds where he wrestled. And we were wrestling with the same guy. And we ended up tearing the cartilage in our ribs, literally The same person, the same day, the same
Oh.
training session. So I remember that phone call that Dana was kind of rough. That he lost his main event, and obviously me fighting Brandon Thatch on the card. That was, I think, the only time that I had to back out of a fight.
Mm.
So
what did he say to you guys? He wouldn't have been happy.
It was basically like, what are you guys doing over there? Like, come on, how are both of you guys getting injured in the same training session? You know, he was definitely disappointed, but he was more like, what the freak are y'all doing?
Yeah.
What are y'all doing over there that y'all are getting injured like that, you know? And this was like several weeks before the fight. So we were kind of short timing it. That kind of sucks. But that was like the only fight that I actually had to say no to, really. I know there were some talks in the past, like I was supposed to have a fight coming up. This is like really early, nothing was signed, and I ended up hurting my knee. But this was like several weeks before the fight. But no, I'm there for UFC 296, man. Me and Shavkat are going to be duking it out.
Good.
So don't worry, Buckley. We're going to be there.
So let me get this straight. You guys are both training with the same guy a few weeks before the fight.
Yeah,
and you fucking decide.
Dude, no.
I mean, just imagine the conversation, because it would basically be when anybody asks him about the PFL Bellator merger or Francis Ngannou fighting John Jones on ESPN. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? I love it. Hey, by the way, this card, like you mentioned, packed, right? You got Ian Garry versus Vicente. You've got, obviously, Tony's coming back against Paddy. People are excited. But from the welterweight perspective, you've got yourself and Shavkat, and, of course, the main event, which is going to be for the title. I know you're the NMF, and you're not really the type of person that's going to, be calling people out after a fight. But if you do put in this performance and, send a statement through the division, are you expecting to sort of jump on that mic and let people know, let Leon or Colby know later on in the night, hey, like, I'm next for you guys. I'm coming for that belt next?
100%. 100%. The guy that I'm going to be calling out is whoever is champ. And I believe it's going to be Leon. So it's not for the title. I'm not going out there calling out, I want the next title shot. I want whoever's champ. And as of right now, before that fight, it's going to be Leon. So I'm going to be calling out Leon.
Spicy. I like it.
I'm going to let everybody know, UFC, I'm coming for Leon.
What is it?
Because that's a fight that that I thought was going to happen before he even got the title shot. There's a few times where I called him out and, he wasn't obviously biting because, he was on a streak. But that's something that I thought was going to happen before he was champ, and it never did. And now that he's champ, dude, I think that would be a banger. I mean, he's only been fighting grapplers here. You know what I mean? He's been fighting grapplers. He's been, the Usman, he's fought Usman. I think he fought Bilal, even though that was like a accidental eye poke or something like that. But and then Colby, which is crazy that he's getting third fight. Is it back to back? I don't think it's back to back, right?
No, because Colby
fought
Masvidal, beat Masvidal.
That's right. He fought Masvidal, but still 3 in a row. That's crazy, man. But yeah, I'm going to be calling out Leon.
So I was going to say, you like the way you match up against Leon. It's an interesting point about, Leon's fought a lot of grapplers.
Yeah. And I think it would be a really exciting fight too, even though his last few were exciting, but I think it would be great, man. 2 strikers banging it out, dude. I mean, he's got great striking. He was predominantly a striker early on in his career. And I mean, now it's to the point where he's taking out Kamaru Usman. Remember the first time that they fought? He ended up taking down and holding down the first. That was nuts. Nobody expected that at all. And that was just another explosion in Usman's mind. Like, what the freak just happened just now? He took me down, And I think that along with that and the head kick just messed him up for that second fight. I don't think he was mentally there for that second fight. There were so many things that he had to worry about. I mean, when you fight a guy that you're dominating every round and he's still so dangerous in the 5th as he was in the first, puts you to sleep with a head kick, you got to worry about that. So I think that was in his head, the second fight. It was a good one, though.
Yeah, I'm refreshing my memory. Nate Diaz 2 fights ago. So that was probably like the last like striker that he fought.
Oh, that's right.
There was RDA, who's like a very good striker as well. Cerrone's probably the last like pure striker that he fought back in 2018. Dude, and Leon's like really, really coming to his own like the last few years, really surpassed people's expectations and just looking phenomenal. Like you mentioned, the grappling level, that he sort of leveled up, taking down Usman. I'd love to see you guys fight. But you mentioned you believe Leon beats Colby. Why is that? What's the thought process there?
Well, because Colby is a very similar fighter to Usman, right? Which is why those two guys were so fun to watch. But he's also the smaller of the two. I think Colby Covington is smaller than Leon, smaller than Usman. He's got cardio for days, yes, but I don't think he's going to be as strong. I think the pace is going to be there, but I think Leon has proven, doesn't matter what kind of pace you bring, that he's still going to be dangerous in the fifth as he is in the first. His striking's a lot better than Usman's. So I do believe that his striking is more crisp, faster than what Colby has been used to here recently. And he's got very good takedown defense, Leon does. So, I mean, as you saw in the last fights, I mean, every time he got taken down, he was back up to his feet, still threatening with his strikes. So I just believe that, Colby, if Usman can put Colby to sleep or TKO him, break his jaw, Leon certainly can. Defend the takedown, keep the fight standing, and possibly take Colby down. I mean, to see what he did to Usman, who's the bigger, stronger fighter, I think he'll be able to do that with Colby.
I know you mentioned you want to fight Leon next. What did you make of him saying that he wants to move up to middleweight eventually and try to go for that double champ status?
Because also he said that there's no one like super interesting at welterweight. I mean, how do you feel about that, Stephen?
I mean, I think that's crap because there is, man. There's a ton of people. What the heck? I mean, I think it's smart for him. I mean, he's only been the champ for one fight, and after that, 2 fights. I feel like if you're going to go up to 185, give the guys at 170 a chance to get up. I mean, have at least 2 or 3, 4 fights before you go. Like, clean the division out, right? He hasn't done that. Clean the division out and then go up and fight at 85 because there are some really great, interesting fights at 170. I mean, you got me, you got Shavkat, man. You got Ian Garry, who's undefeated, working his way up as well. I mean, there's so many other guys that you can fight at 170. Like, come on, bro. I mean, I think he's just looking for a money fight at this point, so which is why he's saying that. So, but I think he spoke too soon because there's some really good guys in the welterweight division. That's for sure.
There's a lot of sexy dust ups at 170. I gotta ask
exactly.
Your words, basically, Stephen. I was gonna ask you. You mentioned Ian Garry. What do you think of Ian Garry so far? He wanted to fight you. He wanted to prove that he's the best striker in the UFC. What do you think about him and his come up? And especially fighting a guy like Vicente Luque. If he wins here, he's another guy that's kind of like getting close to that title, much like yourself.
Yes, man. He's very good. I mean, I guess like he's fought some really good guys. And I think this is going to be his hardest fight yet. That's for sure. I think Vicente Luque is very tough. Somebody I faced years ago, and he's just a tough, gritty fighter. And I think that we haven't really seen that with Ian Garry yet. You know, that grit. I mean, it's somebody to really get in his face and let him see adversity a little bit and see how he handles it. I think Vicente Luque is the type of guy to do that. He goes out there and beats Vicente. We could be looking for a fight in the near future. That's for sure. I know he called me out recently, but it just wasn't time. I think he's definitely got to do more work in order for me to think that's going to be an interesting fight. So, but yeah, Ian Garry is definitely another one of those guys who I'm keeping an eye on. That's for sure.
Yeah, you might have to, because what's the deal with this press conference? Are you a part of it? Has the UFC told you? Press conference?
Nothing to me. They haven't said anything to me yet.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know why they have me at these
Let's
things.
just figure this out for a sec there, Stephen, because we'll have Colby Covington, Edwards, Ian Garry, Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson, and potentially yourself on one stage at one time. And I don't know if you've been following the news and what's been happening with Ian. There's been a few things happening with him outside of fighting, some stuff popping up here and there. And of course, we know Ian's a big trash talker himself. What are you anticipating from that stage, which you'll potentially be sitting on, potentially in between Ian and Colby and other people as things are happening left, right, and center? What do you expect?
Oh, my gosh. I just know for a fact that I'm going to be asked 0 questions. Why am I at this thing?
Dana's going to ask you to remove the monster cans.
When I was supposed to fight Michelle Pajeda, they asked me questions because they felt bad for me because I was just sitting there. Nobody was asking me anything. And they literally asked me just some stupid question because I feel like they felt bad for me. So imagine what it's going to be like that night. Now, I mean, I met and hung out with Ian and his honey and his wife. Very good people. So very sweet, very loving.
Have you bought a book?
It's going to be nuts. I just know it's going to be nuts. It's going to be exciting because I'll be up there on stage just looking at everybody's faces, just grinning. You know what it brings me back to? When at Madison Square Garden, when I was there, for some reason, me, Tyron, but it was literally the Conor McGregor show, and I was just along for the ride. You know what I mean? I was just along for the ride, and that's how it's going to be. I think at the UFC 296 press conference, I'm just going to be along for the ride. Me and Shavkat just smiling, just hanging out.
You're going to be moving monster cans, man. That's the one question. Dana's going to be like, Steven, monster cans, ASAP.
Oh
yep. By the way, so you hung out with Ian and Layla. How did this come about? I didn't realize you guys hung out just because like Ian called you out. Yeah,
it was one or two times. It was before that he actually ended up calling me out, and he told me when we met that was something that he always wanted to do, was to fight me. And I just laughed and, cool, man. But I don't know if you guys know that I was commentating and with Karate Combat for a while. Mm-hmm. And Ian Garry's honey is one of the commentators for Karate Combat, and he goes to the shows. And I was there commentating with GSP and Boss Rutan and my buddy Josh. And he was preparing for a fight, and I was kind of moving around with Ian, kind of, being just somebody to shadow box with because he had a fight coming up. And that's where he ended up meeting, was at the Karate Combat show.
Yeah, wow. Well, I'll tell you, man, I can't wait to see what happens on that stage. And you know what, Steven? If someone says anything to you, you tell them the title is next if you beat Shavkat. You got to make sure to remind. Just quickly as well, I got to bring this guy up, MVP. I know he's being brought up as someone that might be fighting Kevin Holland. That was the league fight. I want to see you get this title shot if you beat Shavkat. But are you at all interested in potentially fighting MVP before it's all said and done? A lot of people are saying that is the fight, you and MVP, stylistically. Such a fascinating matchup to see you guys go at it on the feet.
Dude, I think it would be a very exciting fight. But that dude's a dangerous guy, man. With the reach and the height and the explosiveness, we're pretty much the same fighter. We do a lot of things very similar and a lot of things very differently. But it's going to be a banger, that's for sure. But I mean, we've hung out a few times too, and very cordial, very sweet guy. Would I want to? No. But it would be a very exciting fight. I definitely would like to see him fight Kevin Holland. I think it would be a great fight. Me facing Kevin Holland, I think that would be a great matchup for both of them. But yeah, man. I mean, he's my karate buddy, man. He's a cool dude.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'd love to. I think everyone would love to see that fight. As we let you go, Steven, how do you see it happening, man? How do you see yourself beating Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 296, the welterweight showcase?
Oh, yeah, 100%, man. I mean, it's going to be a banger. Just everybody listening in, tune in to UFC 296, me versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. I never look for a knockout, but I always visualize my hand being raised. But just know it's going to be a banger. So tune in.
What I love about it as well, you get to, experience Christmas, the hams, the puddings, the whole thing afterwards. It's not, before they used to try and put them a little bit later. Now it's a little earlier, so you get to experience Christmas with the family afterwards. So it's going to be a special one. Make sure to check out the Ultra Stacked UFC 296 card. And of course, follow the man at Wonderboy MMA, as well as subscribe to his awesome YouTube channel with amazing breakdowns, reactions, behind the scenes videos, and more, man. You really have one of the best MMA channels when it comes to MMA, dude. Congratulations on all the success, and we can't wait to see you at UFC 296, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all, man, and can't wait to do it next time. See you guys soon.